when they were I don't know if you guys noticed this, but God, he called Adam, where are you? He called for Adam. He didn't call Eve because Adam is seen as the covering of the household. And that's deep. When I realized that, I was like, yo, he didn't even say, Eve, why did you eat the apple? He called Adam because he's supposed to be over her. And so I think more men should understand that. And I've said it multiple times on this platform about when y'all say intentional, be intentional about working on what does it take to be a leader? What does that look like to you? What using your gifts and your abilities, and because leadership can look like anything, right? But if we look at Christ as a servant leader, and you would have to be a servant leader when you're leading your family, right? You're leaving because it's selfless, right? So thinking of that nature, I would encourage men to do that, because a lot of men say they're ready, or a lot of women might say they're ready for marriage, but you don't have the character to sustain marriage, and that's a whole different level. When you're talking about a sustaining marriage, what are we doing to work on our character to sustain it? That's why I'm constantly talking about healing. I'm constantly talking about certain things I look for about, I like certain things. I would love if the guy's tall, but that's not no deal breaker, because I care about his heart. I care about how he's going to treat me. I care about his integrity. I care about how he treats people when nobody's looking. Things of that nature. That's character that's going to sustain our marriage. And a lot of men, y'all work on the superficial things, like, what you say, y'all have to compete, but y'all working on the money, y'all working on the outfits, y'all working on the cars, all that tangible stuff. But sometimes y'all overlook working on the character stuff and sustaining the marriage. And so we don't lead to divorce.
And it's interesting you mentioned that. And the reason why a lot of us, man, we focus on the money and we focus on a lot of the other stuff, because it's the ways of the world. And when you look at a lot of the women, if he's not at least 6 foot tall, if he ain't making this amount of money, if he ain't doing this, it's a pressure, man. It's a pressure on us to divide. It's a pressure on us to provide. It's a pressure on us to be leaders. It's a pressure that they want us to look good, do all of this. So it's a lot of pressure, man.
And to add to your point, I mean, because women are now competing for the same jobs that we're doing. The women have become boss chicks. So now if she's here, then her standards naturally going to be here. So guys are just saying, I got to try to get here, so.
Well, I want him on my level. If I'm here, I want him here.
Yeah.
Which I understand, because a lot of women, they do care about that. But I'm just saying, don't lose sight of doing the character work.
So let me ask you this, though. Do you feel like it's harder for a Christian woman to find a suitable mate versus a Christian man? Because you always hear women say, you know what, I want me a good looking Christian man. That's what I want in church. But then I hear women say, you know what, I said, why not just get a man from the church? And I hear women say, in the church they don't always have the options.
It's more women in the church.
There's more women in the church than men, because it ain't what it used to be. You remember, a lot of men are not in the church as they used to be in the 90s. And why do you guys think that is? You, Fred Forte, a lot of men are not in the church as they used to be. So then a lot of women say, hey, I don't find too many eligible men in the church.
So can I say
go
real
ahead.
quick? Because my church, sometimes it's the leader who the shepherd is, the pastor. Because when you have a certain leader, male, he's going to attract a lot of males. I'm a part of a dope church where there's a lot of men in the church that serve. They're younger. They're like on fire for God because of our pastor. And he just attracts that. Even my brother, that's the thing we do. We go to church together, and he was just like, yo, pastor don't miss. We call him John Wick because he's always cooking. He don't miss. And he was out of the church for a while, right? And so, but he was drawn to him because of who he is, and he sees him as a spiritual father. So I noticed that helps with who are the leaders at the church, because they're going to attract men. But yes, you're right. Statistically wise, there's way more women in the church.
I think she hit it on the head. I think comes down to who is the shepherd, who is the leader of the church, who's the pastor. And then I think a lot of times too, churches are just not really ministering to men as much as they do to women. Because there are more women, so
so the sermon's going to fit. I get what you're saying.
The sermon's going to be more catered to my audience.
I was going to say that.
You know what I mean? So if I'm a man and I come and
it ain't really
it ain't hitting me, so I'll go, baby, you go ahead.
I was gonna say that the messaging has kind of shifted a little bit. I mean, you look at some of the pastors, the male pastors who have super huge congregations. they tailor their messaging now to a woman tithing audience in a lot of cases. So I mean,
Yeah, so I think both aspects play in it. You got a good pastor, you can go out there and see a good diversity of men and women. You're gonna
That's
be able
true.
to see that.
Yeah.
But then, like I said, then you have the other case where it's just, man, this ain't hitting for me. This ain't talking to me. This talking to my wife. This talking to my mama. So yeah, I don't see no need for me to come. I'm not being ministered to.
And y'all don't see him as relatable either.
Absolutely.
Or
Right.
one or two
That's good,
things
too.
he's at a place where y'all think that y'all can't achieve.
Come on.
Because he's acting like, he's not flawed, or to your point, the messaging and it's not relatable and certain things that he is preaching. But I love when certain people preach about, so like Pastor Philip Anthony Mitchell, he's been blowing up. He's from Queens, New York. He's a dope pastor, but because how he preaches on sin and different things, it translates to men and women.
Yeah.
It's not gender bias.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I noticed that you look at his congregation, he has a lot of men with him, right? You're right. That is true. It depends on what their premise is, what they're preaching on.
Absolutely. Because I got to be touched too. Because men and women, though, as humans, we all go through some of the same things.
Yeah.
But there are some things that just a woman, she's not going to be able to understand
Right.
that I'm going through as a man. There's some things I'm not going to be able to understand she's going through. Yeah. So I have to be able to get something every once in a while. You ain't got to tailor make your whole message.
Right.
But
Give me
drop some
something.
nuggets in there for me, man.
Yeah.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
Talk to me. Yeah, man.
So let me ask y'all this question. When it comes to physical standards, I'm gonna ask this because you know what? A lot of people think, like you were saying, we get caught up on the superficial, but sometimes, like I heard this Christian woman say, man, I want a guy like Future, but a Christian man.
Looks like him.
Looks like a Future, like a reformed thug or reformed, but as a Christian man. I was like, wait a minute.
that meme. Go ahead. I told you about that meme. I remember the meme. It was just like, it was delusional. Some mug. It was like, you want a guy. He's go to church. He can have a picnic, but he knows how to carry a gun and all that stuff. It's crazy. But,
And based on physical standards and in society, do y'all feel like sometimes as Christians we pass up on good people because they don't meet a certain requirement or a certain look standard that we want or we expect?
I mean, that's everybody. I don't think it's just Christian people.
Yeah, that's across the board. That's across the board.
So if God placed the perfect woman in front of you right now, I'm talking about she has all the intangibles. Maybe she ain't the best looking. She's not a looker. But women of God, pray for you. You guys have great chemistry, all of that.
But he is attracted to her. Because y'all have to be attracted. Y'all are visual.
Yeah.
So he's attractive, but she might not be a 10 or whatever.
Nah, she may be a 6. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Is
Strong
and
6?
I think most guys will be fine with a 6 that they can work with.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they still got to find her attractive.
That's what I said. You got to be attracted to her. That's men and women. We got to be attracted.
Yeah.
Because sometimes somebody will grow on you, like their personality.
Yeah.
And especially for men, if y'all are funny, it's like, you've seen a face only a mom could love. They pulling women because they funny.
Yeah.
Or they got some style with them.
A
Or
little swag, a little something.
confidence.
Yeah.
Confidence
And
for y'all is king. Like,
And it don't hurt if he got a bag too.
yeah. That don't hurt
It don't hurt if he got a
That
bag
don't
too.
hurt either.
He got a bag
But
too.
yeah.
So I know you're a father. I know you're a great father.
Yeah.
So when you dating out here in the world, you being a father, does that make dating harder? Being a parent and being a Christian man and all that.
Sure. There's gonna be people. I have 4 kids, so for me, being able to say I have 4 kids, it's always gonna be a thing where it raises eyebrows, which that's okay to me.
Okay.
You understand?
Okay.
I don't. To me, stuff like that, I don't get caught up on it, man, because I'm like, you either accept it or not, because for me, my babies are my everything, as you say. They my everything. So, but yeah, absolutely. There have been people say, it's got a little too much going on for me. And that's all right. That's all right. But yeah, for sure. Being a father, a single father, out here, it's not easy. But at the end of the day, it's part of the journey. You know what I mean? That's a part of it. It comes with it. So I understood that going into it. I think the biggest thing is, meeting women who still want to have kids. You know what I'm saying? Who are not done having kids and want more. I'm done. You know what I mean? So I'm, like I said, I'm a grandfather.
And you put that up front?
Straight up. Yeah, I don't mess around. Yeah.
It goes back to the intention. Right.
And I think that's why I say, me personally, I don't think it's hard to be a man of God, a woman of God and date. I think whether a woman is a Christian or not, I think she's going to appreciate the characteristics, the fruits of the Spirit. Who wouldn't want a man that's honest, upfront,
Yeah. Yeah.
knows who he is,
Slow to anger.
slow to anger. Jesus says, what's the greatest commandment? Love your neighbor what? As yourself.
Yeah.
So a man that loves himself, you know, confident, I think anybody's going to appeal to that. And if anything, you may find intimidation to say, oh man, maybe I don't feel like I can meet that,
Yeah.
you know, but somebody saying that's a turnoff.
Right.
Why?
Right.
You know, and if so, that ain't the kind of woman you want anyway. That's a fact.